Welcome to my channel. In this part I will show you the rest of my small books. We will start by books by Pictura. I think that now they are quite rare and they are a heavy stone on my conscience because they are gorgeous. I am proud to have them in my collection, but these two are totally untouched. If you are not familiar, they are books which have one long picture, so it's just one long piece of paper, and they are printed on extremely thick cardstock, so paper is gorgeous and designs are also gorgeous. On the back we have some story from the artist, some explanation of the elements, some practice if you want to draw, but the main picture is here. They all are very detailed. This one is by Annie von Gilbert, Night Journey. Here we have the medieval town which is even more detailed, beautifully done, amazing style, and great paper. The only book which I started, it's also by Annie von Gilbert, English Country Home. Here I started to do watercolor background on first couple of pictures. It was probably 5 years ago. I even don't remember what kind of pencils I used here, because after this very light layer of watercolor, which is okay for me, I started to use these pencils and I realized that maybe my skills, they are not enough. And even when I was more confident that I can color main characters, all those fabrics, it was really interesting for me to try to do various types of fabrics, more transparent than shiny like silk or matte like velvet. So it's really very interesting. That's why I wanted to color this one. I realized that I have no idea, do I want to work and to add more details to the landscape, to the secondary elements, or to do with a lot of details only the main characters. So I stopped to color, and I don't blame myself because book is beautiful, and if I felt that I'm not yet have enough skills for it, then okay. Now I think that it's time for me to start, maybe to continue this one or to start another book. Probably I will continue another one. Honestly, it's again problem of having too many beautiful books, that even such beauties you don't have enough time for it. I think that first couple of characters, they are okay. Maybe now I would make blending a little bit more smooth, but it's easy to correct just using some light Prismacolor pencil to blend it better, especially on the highlights. Maybe to add more color accents. So I think that now I'm finally ready to continue working here. Again, just question, do I want to work more on the landscape, or to accept that landscape background I do only with watercolors, and on the main characters I work with pencils, so it will give me interesting texture, difference of textures, more transparent and more opaque and matte. Well, but I need to color in these books because they deserve to be colored. If you're still capable to grab them, to find them somewhere in bookstores, I highly recommend them. There are many many books in this series, but unfortunately now they are rare, and it's a very sad thing because these books or other series of small books like this Escape, they were printed 5 years ago, and we can see that now on the market we don't have any more new products from this series, so mostly we have those cheap ugly iBooks which are flooded Amazon, and we have lack of new high quality books which we had 5 years ago, and it's really very sad tendency on the market of coloring books, at least for me. So if you are able to find such beautiful books, I can recommend them. You will enjoy. There are different styles. There were pictures, illustrations to Shakespeare's poems. There were more about underwater life and life of hedgehog, something like this. So many books in this series, and everything was extremely nicely done. So after this sad pile of untouched books, let's have a look at Good Vibes and Warriors 4 books, which I finally managed to collect. I think that I started from Escape. It was my first book in the series, and when I received it from Book Depository, it was a long time ago, again maybe 5, maybe 6 years. I immediately fall in love with the paper. I hadn't yet even owned Prismacolors or polychromases, but even with pencils like Derwent Color Softs and with watercolor, I was able to do nice pictures here. So I decided that I need the whole series, and I have 3 books in better edition where paper allows you to work with watercolor, and one where watercolor works with a lot of dots, you know, that usual problem, but where I started to work more with gouache paint. Sad thing that during this year I hadn't touched, at least I don't remember that I did something. Oh no, I did in Shakespeare when I tested color pencils. Oh great, so that's where we will start, from Shakespeare, and then we will go to Christmas book because it's perfect for December coloring. Here everything done with budget pencils. I had Kohinoor school pencils, something like this, or Faber-Castell school pencils, so that was with budget pencils. That was one I did with Derwent Color Softs. And this one I did this year with color pencils. I realized that if this paper is really good, then when I test pencils on it, it will give you the better impression of pencils. So you can't give any fault to the paper because you know that it's good. So if there are problems with layering, blending, that's completely fault of pencils or your skills. Here it was fault of pencils. I do love the final look of this page. Colors are okay, and I think that it looks okay, but it took me much longer time to finish it with colors comparing to how I could color it with Prismacolors, for example. Also, again, Chinese pencils, very waxy, maximum couple of layers, and that's all. They are vibrant and colors are great, but when you layer them, somehow I feel that I need to press harder, even if they are pigmented still. Because of the problem with smooth blending, I press harder, so my hand and arm start to hurt, to be tired much quicker. Usually I never have problems with any pains in my hand and arm, but here with colors, yes, I started to have it. But the final look of it I do love, even with smooth gradient on Romeo name. I don't know if it's visible on the screen, but it has very smooth gradient from very light lavender pink into cream and then peach color. So I'm glad that I did it, but the process wasn't very pleasant. I have that video on my channel, so if you're interested, you can watch, you can repeat it with better pencils, or maybe you just will have better luck with your set of colors. And quick review of all my old works. If you are old follower of my channel, you already saw them many times. I appreciate that some of the pictures here, they are simple, they don't demand many things from you because they are very simplified, but in the same time you can feel more creative when you color them, like this added bubbles or this bloody picture which I did with watercolors and pencils. I think that it matches the tragic story of Romeo and Juliet, lace and steel contrast of blood and lace. It was interesting. This one I did with regular pencils, with Inktense pencils, and even with some shiny bronze and copper acrylic paint to add shining around the unicorn, and unicorns Prismacolor pencils, obviously. This one I did with Inktense after I felt that I totally forgot how to work with Inktense. So Inktense and graphitins for those stormy clouds. For the ships, I think that I used polychromos pencils for the better texture on wood. Of course, polychromos are easier to use. I started to appreciate such simple small pictures, not many elements, but still nice to color. And when you finish it, everything looks nice. I did several similar pictures in this one in Christmas book, where I practiced how to do better shadows on the gold, on metal surfaces, so it was quite instructive and helpful. As usual, I will leave you at the end of this video the link to the playlist from the Escape to series from all the books. Here I tested some pencils. I think that I had a set of 6 pencils and I tried to color something. Well, it wasn't very successful. This one I did when I hadn't have any other picture for Halloween. This one is from last December when I wanted to color New Year or Christmas feast. And I think that I used something like Sucolor and Starjoy pencils, so definitely some budget pencils. Because paper is good, even budget pencils work okay here. This one I did trying to use various water-soluble pencils, which I usually don't use for the background, but on good paper when you can dissolve them with water and pencil strokes won't be visible and create interesting, nice texture and stains. I think that it was quite okay. It's graphitins and Kohinoor Mondeluz together. Nice background, even now I like it. Very quick work done with watercolors only. That's where I realized that you can work on this paper with watercolors. Unfortunately, only in the first edition, which have this creamy paper. In second edition, paper has more white color, but somehow it stopped to work with watercolor paints. I hope to do something in this book this December. We will see. As usual, I have huge plans, but not enough time. This one I did with graphitins and Inktense, and of course a lot of paint for the clouds, which I tried to make in more realistic way to soften their shapes. Here I tried to make contrast between gloomy house of Scrooge and shiny festive shape of the town. Somewhere far from the house, but it's shining, the Christmas lights, something like this, and this dark gloomy house. But I decided that at least I want to decorate the Christmas tree. This works I also did as a study of my art supplies. Here I practiced background with Derwent graphitins. I do love their chalky finish, especially on this paper. It looks nice, and for a winter picture when I sprinkled it with white and blue, I think that it made nice background. Other practice, this one also graphitins and sprinkled with a lot of golden watercolors in the corners. Here I did it when I grabbed a set of gel pens. You know that I don't use any gel pens, but I decided to purchase myself set a couple of years ago with various shades of gold and brown. Some of them have sparkles, and that's where I tested them. So frame is quite shiny. The rest is really simple watercolor background and simple wooden texture. They don't represent anything. Yeah, they could illustrate the story of Dickens, but they are not very beautiful by themselves. But as a study of materials, it's really very helpful. It's the same here, where I tried to do highlights to practice how to color steel metal, how to color something like copper probably, or red, or more reddish gold, more old gold. So it's again various pencils and study how to do better metal. I have this Christmas candle, very simple, watercolors and polychromos pencils. This strange spread where the left page is so different from the right one. This one it's polychromos and Prismacolors with slightly strange background. I didn't like snow, which was depicted here, and I tried to mask it a little bit with additional halo. But I do love the globe. Here I started it simply because, well, I had a tube of paint in this Viridian color and I wanted to use it at least somewhere because it was totally forgotten and I didn't know where to use it. Somehow I decided that this Christmas page could be the better choice, the best choice for it. I don't know, sometimes I do strange color choices. But what I do love is this blue color for the branches. It was somewhere in the end of Christmas time. I did already many green leaves and red berries, so I wanted to try something new. That's probably one of the best spreads in the book, my reindeer with shiny antlers and many things behind him. I do love to experiment with various background colors here. This one reminds me a little bit about medieval tapestry because of the color combo, and of course it's illustration to the partridge in a pear tree. We have several pictures connected to the story in the book. This one I did with Derwent color softs. Oh, I need to clean this page. And I deliberately try to use very unusual colors for the leaves because I don't like green color soft pencils, so I decided that I can do leaves in totally fantasy way. I really want to do this one this year. So we have swans are swimming, neo colors, watercolors, and Prismacolor pencils probably for the swans. And it's another feast which I wouldn't mind to color. Kittens are totally terrible. Bakery is nice and I mostly used watercolors, so I'm quite proud of this one. This one is also nice because it's mostly done with watercolors. For me it's not an easy thing, but I think that here the representation of storm is good, both clouds and stormy waves. It was a blessing to have pictures printed on such a good paper, so of course I was disappointed when I tested second edition. And I really love this spread. There is a year of time difference between them. I think that this one first, and then a year after I tried to do matching right side. All of them are on my channel, so if you need them, there is a playlist. Next is Oz, where I started to work with watercolors here and here. Something here is abandoned. Well, you can see that my watercolor skills, they are far from good. Something look dirty, something look a little bit flat, but I love even those very old works. Here I decided that I don't like this background. This one is much better. Watercolors and pencils. Here I used Kohinoor Mondeluz for those clouds and starry background. And again, very nice piece of metal of this steampunk heart. Very nice to practice how to color gold. Again, I have it on my channel if you need it. A heart is colored with polychromos pencils. And it really shows that on the good paper you can do nice background with pencils, with water-soluble pencils, which usually on bad paper I never do. But here I didn't mind. And again, simple picture, but good for practicing metal. I think that polychromos again. And background is quite shiny. I didn't know what to do, so I added, first I applied matte layer of watercolor paint and then more shiny, like rays coming from the central part of the cross. Most of all, I'm glad that metal looks shiny, exactly what I wanted here. Background it's acrylic paint and then Prismacolor pencils. Simple, but still it was interesting to do. I love to color crows, to add some additional colors to the black feathers. That was done with Inktense, surprisingly. And only wooden part, it's maybe color softs, maybe Prismacolors. But those tiles, I did them with Inktense. And finally this spread. Watercolor for the background and pencils for the animals and insects. This spread I did with a watercolor for sky and grass, but the main image was colored with Sucolor pencils. I love Sucolor on this paper, they blend well, they cover paper nicely, so it's another good book where you can use budget pencils with good results. And finally, Escape to Wonderland, where I was first slightly surprised by paper. I started from the end of the book. Here I tested Arteza and Sucolor probably pencils. So pencils, all pencils are great on these papers. Tooth of paper, thickness of paper is great. But then I started to do spread with watercolors and there were unpleasant dots and stains. Yes, I masked it because when I sprinkled those watercolor on top of the first layer, it masked areas which I didn't like. But that's where I realized that it won't be possible to do big, smooth watercolor washes for the background, and I need something else, some other technique. Here I wanted to do colorful background because picture is a little bit unbalanced in color, quite pale pile of cards and colorful animals. So I decided that background have to be colorful and bright, but it was difficult to do it. On the good side, as I said, even with budget pencils you can color here again, Sucolor pencils. I got at that moment this book and Sucolor pencils as presents, so I tested them together. Many nice cute animals. This page I used again as a test for Derwent Graffitins, this muted, slightly dark but interesting background with nice stains. Maybe it looks dirty, but I think that it has its own charm. So that's derwent gradient, and then a little bit of lines with golden watercolor. The rabbit is done with polychromos pencils. The rest of the pictures I have in the beginning of the book, where I started to use gouache paint as a background, and gouache works perfectly well, so if I need paint to cover background, gouache is my best choice here. It's Star Joy pencils. Here Castle Art pastel tints, so I used this page to test when I purchased Castle Art. I wanted somewhere to test them, and I think that their pastel colors got a really good work here on the rabbit hole. The rest is some other pencils. Again, everything is on my channel. Another interesting practice here, maybe I was a little bit carried away with various pearl watercolors, but I wanted my cosmic background to be quite shiny. This one I do love. On the matte paint I added vertical pencil strokes with pearl and metal paints to increase impression of Alice falling down the rabbit hole. This one I started, but something didn't went right, and background, it was interesting, but I totally wasn't interested in coloring the rest of the page, so I decided that I can allow myself to abandon it. Well, I need to do something in this book. I have a page. I do want to do this one because I really love all animals here. And there is another one. No, not with the rabbit. Something like Griffon. Okay, I won't be using your time, but I will try to put it not far from my working table, so maybe this one and this one. Let's hope that somewhere in the beginning of the next year I will find time for these beautiful books. So that was almost all about my small books. I also have a similar size of book, but it's from horror series by Alan Roberts, so I will show you it in the series dedicated to all my horror books. I really love small books. When you are limited in time, it's much easier and not as frightening to start smaller projects, especially when they are printed on good paper. I think that in these books I have the major variety of different mixed media techniques used. So when paper allows you, it's really interesting to experiment and to use all your art supplies. So I love this series, and I'm sorry that I didn't spend a lot of time with these books during this year. I need to rectify this mistake. Thank you, and again, it's books which I can recommend to purchase, even second edition. They are still nice, and if you love the style of good vibes and warriors, you will enjoy these books. It's sad that they almost don't do coloring books now. I think that the last one about magical creatures was published maybe 2 years ago, and that's also, they also abandoned the market of coloring books. Very sad thing. Well, but we have some new artists, so maybe in the next series we will talk about mythographic. Well, I hadn't decided yet which books I will include, but of course I intend to film all my collections, so please stay with me, and I hope that it will be interesting. It's nice for me to look at all my old and new books, and I hope that for you it also could be a nice video to spend maybe half an hour. Thank you, and I will see you very soon.